Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 18. We are going to be talking about Lord of the Flies, chapters 7 and 8. We're also going to be talking some Carl Jung and the Anima and Animus archetypes. All right, week 18. I can't believe we made it. Please remember to always watch that weekly overview video. I think it helps to have a voice and a face to guide you through those assignments. All right, you read chapter 7 and 8 this week. It's really picking up action wise, and these chapters will go pretty fast for you. You, of course, are always welcome to read ahead. If you have fallen behind in the reading, I really implore you to give yourself a couple of days and just read and catch up so you can get the work done. Assignments. Let's talk about the assignments that are due this week, week 18. You have a discussion for chapters 7 and 8 focusing on Simon. Respond to the following prompt in your discussion post. Use textual evidence to support your response. Analyze Simon in these chapters. Is he losing his mind? Is he hallucinating, having an epiphany, seeing visions? Basically, what is going on with Simon? Simon has set himself as being rather different from the other boys already. Maybe a little more philosophical, maybe a little more thinky, maybe a little more wise, but also maybe a little more unstable. So, how is he doing in these chapters? What conclusions maybe have you come to about Simon? Support them with textual evidence, quotes, or good strong examples. And remember to respond, react, and relate to at least one other posting. This would probably have been a quick write in another week, but I decided to make it a discussion so you could talk amongst each other about this topic. Oh, I know you've been sad you didn't have any quizzes yet. Don't be sad any longer, folks. You have a quiz this week that's going to cover chapters 1 through 8. It is easy peasy. 10 questions. That's it. 10 questions. But you absolutely positively must complete this by Saturday the 15th at midnight. You guys know the drill. It will close on you at midnight. It doesn't care if you're in the middle of the quiz. So don't wait till then to do it. You get 3 attempts. You, of course, can use your book. It's untimed. Just do this thing. Make sure you do this quiz and finish it by midnight on Saturday. Please, please, please do not procrastinate on this. All right, so let's talk about Carl Jung and the archetypes. So far, we've talked about persona, we've talked about self, we've talked about ego, we've talked about the shadow, we've talked about all of those different archetypes, and now we're going to talk about the last two, which are Animus and Anima. Now, if you remember, I did give a little bit of warning about Carl Jung when I said his some of his stuff is a little dated, and this is what I'm talking about, basically. He was writing this stuff and teaching this stuff back in the 1940s and 1950s, and I think gender roles were a little bit more defined back in the 40s and 50s. So what you have are some very defined and maybe a little archaic gender roles when he talks about animus and anima. So take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to agree with everything Carl Jung says, and you can agree with as much as you want and not the rest. So anyway, grain of salt, and just realize that this is a little bit dated, maybe in the perception of gender roles. All right, so self, ego, persona, and shadow, the first four archetypes, do not have a particular gender assignment and are present in all people. So we haven't talked about this yet. This rather, what makes his stuff a little maybe archaic because it hasn't come up yet, right? These don't have any kind of gender assignment. These are present in all people. We've talked about self as being that inner self that we all have that maybe not many people see, maybe nobody sees. Ego as being our sense of dignity and self-worth. Too much, and maybe you come off as narcissistic or overbearing. Too little, maybe people walk all over you, they don't respect you. Persona, of course, was that shell, that mask that we put on for the world. Everybody has a persona. Sometimes it's rather thin, and you can see right into their cores. And some people have a really thick persona, and you never really feel like you get to know them. The shadow was our last discussion, and that was talking about our unconscious. That was talking about those instinctive things that those decisions that you make, the behaviors that you have that Carl Jung would say live in your subconscious. And because they live there and they're not conscious decisions, Carl Jung believes that the shadow causes us to make largely bad decisions or destructive decisions. All right, so we've talked about all of these, but let's talk about Animus and Anima. They deal specifically with issues of gender, and they help, according to Carl Jung, they help both sexes relate to each other, but they also serve to define gender roles and expectations from each gender role. All right, so the animus. This is where the grains of salt come in, my friends. Carl Jung said that within every woman there exists a set of unconscious masculine attributes and potential. The animus allows women to relate to men and exercise necessary male aspects. Uh, yeah, I cannot say it enough, but remember he was teaching this stuff in 1940s and 50s when they would have had what was a acceptable male attribute and acceptable female attribute a little more clearly categorized, right? I like to think we're a little more enlightened now. But he believed that inside every woman there was a little bit of masculine attributes, masculine way of thinking, and that was why us ladies were able to relate to and talk to, interact with men. So Carl Jung believed there were four phases or ways that the animus manifested itself in women: physical power, capacity for planned action, understanding of higher learning, and a capacity to be a spiritual leader. Yeah, yeah, according to Carl Jung, these were all masculine traits. I want to go on record as saying I do not believe these are uniquely masculine traits at all. But he did, and of course, a lot of people back in the day did think this. So he believed that the way your animus was going to manifest itself if you were a woman, was through these four things. I think this cartoon from the 1950s is just adorable. The harder the wife works, the cuter she looks. All right. He's not just being sexist towards women, though. Men, he goes after you guys too. Carl Jung believed that in each man, the anima was present to open up his capacity for emotional development and sensitivity. So you see, I mean, he's saying that women can't be leaders, we can't have physical power without a little bit of male attributes, but he's also saying that men can't have a capacity for sensitivity or emotional development without a little bit of women in them. So at least he's an equal opportunity sexist here. All right, so according to Jung, there were four manifestations of the anima in men, and he even gave them names, oddly specific names. Eve, the emergence of man's desire. This could be like a physical desire, this could be appetite for food, this could be appetite for power, but the emergence of man's desire, that was how the anima, passion really, was how it is interpreted a lot. That's a female trait, is what he said. Helen, meant to show the schism between ability and virtue. So virtue and your ability to function in society, he thought was a innately female trait. Mary, the virtuous and loving caregiver. So, the ability to take care of family members, children, be loving, care for the sick, care for people who need help. He believed that that was an innately female quality. Sophia, wisdom and the full circle integration of virtue and ability. So, this was like the all of them wrapped up into one was Sophia. Yeah, so I mean, take it with a grain of salt because I think we're a little more enlightened now to say that maybe these qualities, aren't pigeonholed into gender abilities, that maybe they're just qualities that people have in varying degrees, right? Okay, so cautions in this because Carl Jung believed that an overly influencing animus or anima could block the self and halt the process of balancing the archetypes. Essentially, it's just like with all of the archetypes we've talked about so far, everyone needs a balance of both feminine and masculine qualities, just like we need a balance of persona and self and ego and shadow. He believed that if we could live our lives in a perfect balance, with all of our archetypes, we would be completely mentally stable and totally healthy. That's the key to happiness, according to Carl Jung. And it's no different when he talks about an animus or anima, right? So either one will, if you have an excess of any of them, but if you have an excess of masculine or feminine traits, according to Carl Jung, you will create an internal chaos and you'll be in a tailspin. So, take it with a grain of salt. I think if you take out the gender assignments to some of these qualities, it's a little more palpable. Um, but this is what he was teaching, and remember, this was what the common philosophy was back in the 40s and 50s when his philosophy and his psychology was just like groundbreaking. This was really really new hot stuff that he was teaching people. Okay, guys, excellent. Don't go away. We're going to be back in Zoom and I will answer any questions and I will talk about in the assignments and make sure everybody's good for the week. Thank you very so much for listening and I will talk to you in a sec.